I am here on behalf of the Partnership for Economic Prosperity, and for those that are not as familiar with it, allow me a few minutes to just inform you of what has been transpiring over the past year and a half or so. I'd like to introduce those of our partnership board members that are present tonight. We have your city supervisor, Gary Riedner, with us. Latah Commissioner Dick Walser can't join us tonight. Dan Ewert, U of I Vice President of Infrastructure, is a board member, as well as Brad Flodine from the Moscow Chamber, representing the Chamber, and myself. And Gina Terusio is our Executive Director. Also, I want to recognize two other people that were very instrumental in the formation. Susan Wilson, a local attorney who was our pro bono counsel and helped us develop the documents, as well as the nonprofit status of that designation. And then Judy Davis, who works for the city, incredible lady who actually typed a lot of documents for us. So thank you. Thank you with that. So I want to talk briefly about the Partnership for Economic Prosperity. We call it PEP. We'd all agree that economic vitality is really critical to the long-term viability of any community, county, or region. And all of us here tonight, whether you realize it or not, have a role to play in creating jobs, building economic resilience, and introducing innovative solutions that improve the competitiveness of our communities here in Latah County. While economic development can be defined in many ways, ultimately it's the business of helping business expand and create jobs and opportunity. And there's really four stools to economic development, as many of you know: business retention, business expansion, business attraction or recruitment, as well as business startups or entrepreneurship. And from a public perspective, you all have a very important role to play. Local economic development involves the allocation of limited resources. You struggle with budgets every year: land, labor, capital, and the talent, in a way that has a positive effect on business activity, employment, income distribution patterns, and fiscal solvency. So the policies and codes that you create ultimately adopt do have impacts and consequences. But at its heart, economic development is really about the business of building healthy economies in order to have healthy communities. So over a year ago, some of us involved in the Latah Economic Development Council recognized that the organization was floundering, had really lost its core focus, and many of the things that I just mentioned were not happening anymore. It was literally just a meeting on your Outlook calendar. Those early conversations about the need and focus of a new economic development organization included Gary Riedner, Gina Terusio, who at that time was with the Moscow Chamber, U of I President Chuck Staben, Moscow Mayor Bill Lambert, Latah County Commissioner Dick Walser, Martin Erkla from Frontier Communications, and myself. And we did have many conversations over the course of that year. And we had seen some very successful economic development organization models, not only around Idaho, but throughout the Pacific Northwest. And in my role at Avista, I work with 38 different economic development organizations, some highly functioning, others incredibly dysfunctional. And we fund a lot of them. But in the end, the essence of success in economic development is really about partnerships. And that's really what we focused on to really catalyze what we have here tonight. So we got creating this really powerful framework for success. So let me just share a little bit. The mission of our partnership is to bring government, education, and community leadership together for the purpose of strengthening the Latah County economy through retention and expansion, job creation, the attraction and recruitment, as well as the continued diversification of our economy here in Latah County. But most importantly, it's one single unified voice representing prosperity throughout Latah County. And that was the model we saw a success throughout many other organizations. And there was a sense of purpose and a sense of urgency. Economic development has to happen today. You have to return phone calls. You have to help those businesses, whether grow or not. So as the lead economic development consortium and under the direction now of an established board and executive committee, the partnership serves as the sole economic development organization for all of Latah County. We work under a set of deliverables for each of our funding partners, and this is countywide. So we will serve Beauville as equally as we serve Onaway, as equally as we serve Moscow. This is also a pay-to-play model. So we expect participation in the governments, that you have to provide some skin in the game, whether that's actually capital or in-kind services, and that's how we've structured it. And we truly only want those committed to economic vitality to join us at the table. Inherent in this foundation for the organization and the participation, it requires acceptance of certain principles. And if I could, I'd read this. Economic development in Latah County is a team sport. In order for the partnership to be successful, the economic goals of the entire county must take precedence over the goals of any individual, organization, or entity involved in the organization. And essentially, a job in Moscow, a job created in Moscow is a success in Potlatch, and vice versa. A job in Genesee is equally as important to us as a job here, or as in Onaway. How many have been to Onaway, by the way? Good, thank you. It's a great little spot just next to Potlatch. Finally, we are committed as a partnership to working together collaboratively. I think you've seen that already. We have the shared vision and purpose in mind, creating economic prosperity. So I've provided you some packets. You have our white paper that kind of explains what I've just stammered through. We have the bylaws that tell you how we're governed. We want to be very transparent in that. The list of directors and contact information. And then Gina has been working hard for these past few months on an economic vitality report for the entire county. It's got some fabulous information in it. And what I have seen is, as economic development professionals, if you don't truly understand the economy which you're working, you're going to fail. And so that was a core to our mission, is we had to understand what makes this economy work. And I think this really captures the essence of that. And then we have a short, just an economic snapshot of Moscow. One of our strong partners in all of this is Economic Modeling Specialists, Inc. Gina works really closely with them. We have access to all their tools. So again, information is really powerful in economic development. Not as powerful as partnerships, but almost. So with that, I will stand for questions. Mr. Mayor, I want to thank you for your funding and your commitment to our organization. We anticipate great things happening, whether it's here in Beauville, Moscow, even Onaway, or Viola, where I live. So.
Well, Paul, one of the things for the prosperity for everybody in our area, not just Moscow, but it's reflective of us. So we're just not the only city here in this county. It's a whole county effort that makes it worthwhile. And there's fits that could be in Potlatch or other communities that would be a better fit there than would be than a fit here in Moscow. And of course, by our sheer numbers, there's things that we can do here that the small towns can't do, but they're relying on us as well. So it is a partnership where we're working with our county commissioners. University of Idaho is a huge part of this. Our Chamber of Commerce is a part of this. And so it's a big deal for all of us to make this work for our whole area, and not just for some, but for all. So questions for Paul from the council?
Thanks.
Jim?
Thank you for the official explanation.
Thank you, Councilman.
Jim?
I was just curious if you have, in the short time you've been working on this, if you've identified some players that you think are going to be coming on board in the short term.
Players as
in terms of
respective potential business starts and things.
Job creation
Yes.
and ideas that
absolutely.
might be happening shortly.
Absolutely.
Not at liberty to talk about right now.
Yeah, and that's, that's part of the challenges. There are certain confidences in economic development that we have to protect. But what I can tell you is that we have a newfound relationship with the Idaho Department of Commerce. They are up here on a regular basis now, and we are doing site visits on businesses. So this business retention and expansion, BRE program. So Gina and often a board member or two will visit a business, whether it's Kreitz or Bennett Lumber. We'll talk to them, ask them what keeps them up at night. What are the impediments to growth? You know, challenges to market access, et cetera. So it's really exciting. Some of the next steps for us, we'll be out in those rural communities. We've already introduced ourselves, but we'll be out essentially doing SWOT analysis with them. We'll get them to kind of help us and them understand what their visions are, what does success look like in that community, because we want to be a part of it.
Thank you.
Well, Paul, I think everybody was excited about hearing about this report, and I know the council as well as myself wanted to hear what was happening with PEP. Walter?
Thank you, Mayor. Paul, can we anticipate regular reports, and if so, on what schedule?
Councilman Steed, yes, and I believe we're going to be on a quarterly. Is that right? Yeah, quarterly. So again, but don't ever be afraid to email any of us if you have questions, specific questions. We're happy to respond.
Thank you.
Again, our major funders right now, just to inform you, the City of Moscow, the University of Idaho, and Latah County are equal funders at $40,000 apiece. And then we have private funders like Avista, and then the Chamber of Commerce is providing cash as well as some in-kind provision. But again, we hope to grow that with more private business. That's been some of the struggle here in this community is, we have a large government sector. We don't have a big private sector. So it's, a lot of small business. But again, we're gonna try and bring them in as best we can. But ultimately, we're going to focus on growing this economy. So,
Well, thank you, Paul, for that report, and we look forward to a future report as we
Thank
go
you, Mayor.
along with their endeavors.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
okay.